Again, I will open this up to citizens to speak if there are any on this item. If not, we are going to postpone this and send it back to the planning commission. I know they're attempting to put together a meeting as soon as possible to keep this thing moving forward for the city. And I think we all realize the need for haste on this, and we'll do the best we can to move it forward. I do not see anyone overly eager to come up here and speak. So with that, Andrew, I think that we can wrap this one up.
I'm up for the next item on the agenda.
Until the next one.
Yep.
Okay, next. We will move on to number 6. Or are we?
We're postponing item 6 and 7, moving to item 8.
Thank you.
Or, I'm sorry, item 9. Or no, 8. I'm sorry, 8.
We are going to move on to the ordinance, water use and preservation element of the general plan. Mr. Jackson again, planning and zoning director.
Vice Chair, members of the commission, I am Andrew Jackson, the Grand County Planner. Before you tonight is the final adoption of the water use and preservation element of the Grand County General Plan under Utah Code 1779-403. This element's been in the process for over a year. Staff drafting, planning commission review, public comment, several rounds of revision. The document in your packet is not the one that we started with. That's because we listened. Let me say one thing plainly. The residents of this county have already been doing the work. Demand reduction here it's not a goal here, but it's a measured performance. Our water users have already cut their per capita use. In fact, it's lower than what the state is recommending for 2030. So we've already reduced our demand below what the state recommends for 2030. This element does not ask residents to start conserving. It asks the county to plan around conservation that's already had. Ask the commission, the commission include the new section 5 with the graphs in the element as adopted that was submitted at your last meeting to you. And if you need copies of that, I've got extra copies here. Basically what it does is it adds graphs that detail what can happen if there is conservation and reduction on demand. Again, the graphs do something the text cannot. They let people see what demand reduction actually accomplishes, how much of our future we need, how much of our future need we can meet by conserving instead of building new supply. Comments. Now the comments we received, they fall into 4 areas: climate change, water supply, use of the Colorado River, and coordination with MOAB. All 4 are already addressed in the Water Utility Resource Management Plan for the Moab Spanish Valley. So if I look at this water element, which is a chapter in our general plan, and then I also look at conservation plans, it's kind of like doctors. And you have a specialist who's a specialist that's a dermatologist, and you have another specialist that's a cardiologist. So they're both medical doctors and can do certain things, but their specialties break off and branch off. And that's what we have with our chapter of the general plan that deals with water and water conservation plans. They both deal with water, but they branch off in different directions. But the key is, I think, here with the questions and comments that we've received, and what most of those comments that we have received are about: climate change, water supply, use of the Colorado River, coordination with MOAB. Again, all 4 of these are addressed in detail in the Water Utility Resource Management Plan for Moab and Spanish Valley, which also included a portion of San Juan County that is in Spanish Valley. This was done as a $500,000 study. They took 2 years to do it. They made the presentation last summer to Moab City and Teguisa. And those questions are answered in that study. They shouldn't be in this chapter because those are already answered someplace else. And we don't have the time and energy to redo what they've already done because it's already been done. The plan is a coalition effort. Webb City is full participating partner alongside GWISA and the San Juan Spanish Valley District. That analysis does not need to be repeated here. If we duplicate it, we end up with two documents that drift apart and contradict each other in a few years. This element references that work and stays consistent with it. So coordination with MOG is something this element proposes that already exists. This element is written to fit inside of it. In closing, this element does not restrict any property or property owner tonight. It's a policy framework. It also doesn't have any impact on agricultural watering. Implementation comes back to you later as ordinances with their own hearings and their own findings. Staff recommends adoption of the water use and preservation element, including the revised section 5, its drafts, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, I'm going to start with Commissioner Martinez, Commissioner McCurdy, and anybody else.
Let's go ahead and start with the motion. I move to approve the Grand County water element as presented with the graphs.
Motion by Commissioner Martinez, second by, second
That was a second because he stole my motion. It's okay.
by Commissioner McCurdy. Further discussion? Did you have further discussion, Brian, or were we?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can go ahead and start and bring in a couple of things.
Trish had her hand up. I wasn't sure if you were.
I think I made the motion. I think that I still have the floor.
Please do.
So, just, I'd like to clear up a couple of things. So tonight we were brought the state code that detailed how this water element is supposed to be. So in that code, it says that Grand County will make demand, right, reductions. And that we will go to our water suppliers to talk about the supply, and then we will go to the Division of Water Quality to talk about any overlay protection zones. Also inside of that same state code, they talk about the transportation element, right? The word element as in a section, right? We also talk about the economic development element that's inside there. And in those elements, it says shall, as in we will do these things. We will have all of these things in. And then it also says inside of your general plan, you may have an environmental element.
Sure.
Inside that chapter right there is all of the things that we seem that we are trying to go ahead and put in. So for the folks who are really trying to come up with all of these environmental protections, that requires an environmental element inside of the plan. So I just wanted to go ahead and clear that up. And then I have quite a few other things that I wanted to bring up here. Grand County's culinary water is primarily groundwater, right? Pumped through Valleyfield Aquifer and the Glen Canyon Aquifer and Springs, right? Which recharges slowly via the West Sal Mountain snowpack. And Trish, I did go through the, Commissioner Hadeen, I did go through
My flood lines.
the red lines that you had and actually went through the additional sources that you brought up. And I also brought those sources to the Grand County Water, and Sewer. And they have considered those elements or those studies right there when they did their conservation plan. So those studies have been considered inside of the conservation plan. They are keeping track of that right there. And there's just some mistruths that have been spread both in the public, right, in print, and up here at the dais. And I'd like to take a couple of minutes just to go through and address those. So first off, the claim that Grand County Water plans to mine the aquifer, right? Grand County Water monitors culinary wells once a month. And the USGS monitors approximately 30 wells in Spanish Valley. Surprisingly, some of those are up and some of those are down. That's where we are. From the Grand County Water Conservancy Plan, right, it emphasizes responsible groundwater management through continued monitoring, conservation, diversified water supplies, and adaptive planning to assure the long-term sustainability of the agency's water resources. I believe pretty close to what Dale had mentioned right here. The second thing that I've heard about is that Grand County Water is a private water seller, and because of this, forecasts should not be relied on because the agency benefits from selling more water. Right? GWISA is a service agency, not a private company whose objective is maximizing profits. Water rates are established to recover costs of operating and maintaining water systems. Funds are also used for investing in infrastructure, complying with state and federal regulations, planning and water needs as the public water provider for its service area. It has a legal obligation to provide services in accordance with applicable law, water rights, system capacity, and agency policies. Number 3 that I had was that water planning primarily relies on obtaining additional water supplies. Right? The 2025 Water Conservation Plan places conservation at the forefront of the agency's strategy. The plan emphasizes reducing demand through water conservation, leak detection, system efficiency, public education, tiered water rates, irrigation efficiency, and ongoing monitoring before considering the development of additional water supplies. Right? And then the fourth one, which gets to some of the red lines, is that water planning does not address climate change and long-term uncertainty. The Water Conservation Plan discusses the impact of drought, changing hydrological conditions, uncertainty in future water availability, groundwater monitoring, and the need for adaptive management. These issues are recognized through the plan and are incorporated through the long-term conservation strategies that our supply was based off in our general water plan. Okay. Couple of other things. Historically, the state of Utah has had a per capita water use averaging 223 gallons per person per capita. Grand County's per capita daily consumption is 184. Our residents deserve the credit for the work that they have done so far, right? Moab averages 269, and the state 2030 goal is 187, already below the 2030 goal. The other thing that has been brought up is tourism. And so to help understand the impacts of tourism on water, we can measure sewer plant inflows, which directly capture indoor water use, including hotels and restaurants. The data shows that at peak times of tourism, indoor water use remains remarkably flat year-round and even year over year. While indoor consumption stays stable, total municipal and district water usage skyrockets during hot summer months, which also was mentioned inside of the studies that you presented, Commissioner Eddy. Looking at yearly total water usage, early summers, right, equal more watering, right? That's the hotter it gets, the earlier it gets, the more people start using that outdoor water. That plus the wildfires, right, are the biggest spikes that we see in our water use on a total system look. Talking about the Colorado River, there's a lot that we need to clear up there. When we talk about the Colorado, we're talking about the future development of secondary irrigation water, right? So we can protect our primary groundwater from being depleted. Every drop of secondary water that we use is saved inside of our underground storage. That's a concept I think that we really need to all start taking into account. When we start looking at places like Ashley Creek or up on the Duchesne River system, right, they talk about curtailment. The curtailment there is when natural flow has dropped. There is not enough water, right? It's just physically not there. That's the curtailment that folks are talking about right now. It's not a curtailment on their Colorado River rights. It's just physically not there. Grand County's primary vulnerability regarding junior water rights, which our water rights are actually in from the 1950s. So they're middle of the pack when you look at them, is tied to a compact call. And if curtailment occurs, junior rights would be legally cut off to satisfy downstream obligations, regardless of whether there's water flowing past Moab at that moment or not. However, the state engineer is responsible for the general administration, supervision, measurement, appropriation, and distribution of those water rights. Right now, currently, the state is creating a priority distribution model. It would provide localized data, engineering models, legal analysis, and it will improve our decision-making process. There's two things that we need to consider when we look at the curtailment. The first, right, is do you have water rights and what is your water right date, right, your priority? But second, what is the availability of the water itself, right? Is there actually going to be water available? So those two things right there will score where you're going to be at on that curtailment. They plan on having that out by the end of the year as we look into it. Claiming our Colorado River rights are not valid, right? Out of immediate fear of curtailment, I believe is just nothing more than a strategy to create artificial water scarcity, right? I think that if the goal is to restrict regional growth, then let's all just be direct and say that that's what we're out for. Thank you.
Commissioner Hedin and then Commissioner McCurdy.
Will I be afforded the same amount of time?
I
I don't want to talk that long. I'm joking. I don't want to talk that long.
Anybody
I'll
off?
try to do the best I can. So it has been a really laborious process. The Planning Commission has worked really hard. I have tried many times to, be involved in this and was told at multiple levels, that even the last public hearing, that I could come with the red line and we could move through the red line. I did ask for this to be a workshop. I was denied that. And then I spoke with Chair McCandless and she said, yeah, we'll allow you to go through it. I'm just like, I'm exhausted at this point. But I do want to point out the things that I recommended, and then I want to go through a few comments, additional comments. So the things that I think that I recommended, I think are honestly pretty benign. But I think they would have been nice additions to our general plan. I think one, using climate information and planning to make sure that we are not exceeding our capacity for development is important. And so just acknowledging climate and natural water supply. God forbid we use the term climate change, but the reality is the climate is changing and our water supply is diminishing. I did listen to the GWISA meeting from Thursday, and I heard a lot of angst surrounding the level of Kins Lake. Like, I know that you guys know what's happening and I know that what's happening. And so it was simply just acknowledging that. Second, establishing a subcommittee, which we now have many of them, to assemble climate-informed water data for considering and planning decisions. And those experts could be a variety pack. They could be people from WISA, they can be people from UGS, et cetera, and so on. But I think it's something to consider as we move forward, because the reality is the planning department is very much a component of the development of this valley. WISA is a water service provider. Thompson Springs Special Service District is a water service provider. But the reality is we are in charge of development in this county. For making sure that we are protecting our EPA designated sole source aquifers. And I think that's just a really simple thing. Like, that's not asking much. It is our culinary water. It's extremely important to take care of that water. And then lastly, just manipulating that verbiage. Of course, I think using Colorado River water for irrigation is a fabulous idea. Like, for secondary water, I think it's a great idea. But just acknowledging that that is really theoretical And that's the verbiage that I would have put in there, and just acknowledging, with that hydrologic system is under extreme pressure from supply and demand imbalances, climate induced reductions in snowpack recharge, and depletions of our storage reservoirs. And I wrote that and I believe in it. And so I will state that. So those are the things that I was concerned about. Here's my additional comments. To say that the planning commission listened or that we're listening, I'm going to disagree with that statement. You had a lot of public reaching out that wanted some additions to this. Planning commissioners that wanted some amendments, that didn't happen. This idea that we're using the best available science, maybe we are, but what I asked for again and again is that those were referenced in that document. And there's no referencing. And this is just me, the professor, coming out. But when we're saying we're using the best available science, I want to see that science in that document. And that's a simple ask, little footnote and providing a reference. So to hear like best available science, like, where is it? I do think we're doing an okay job conserving water, but I want to make this clear. Utah has the highest per capita water use in the United States, the highest per capita. The average is 82 gallons a day. We're up around, would you say, 180 to 200 gallons a day? So yes, we're doing better than the state average, but could we do better? Can we start comparing ourselves to the national average? Probably not a bad idea. And then I guess I'm a little like, yes, we have the RUMP and we have the conservation plan via GWISA, but this is a part of our general plan. So, the county wasn't a part of the water resource utility management plan. I went to some of those planning meetings, but we weren't a part of that. This is our little own piece. So to keep saying, well, it's already been done, that doesn't alleviate our responsibility to put something that is, to me, holistic and acknowledging what's happening in our own document. So I won't be voting for this. I do appreciate the amount of work that Andrew put into this, that the planning commission put into this, that Brian, that I've tried to put into it. I went through this document again and again and again and again and put a lot of, and it never was, anyways, never came to fruition, but that's kind of where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. And
It came right at the right time, right?
Mr. Attorney, you're next. Commissioner Hadler.
As Gwis is in the room, thank you for I just want to tell you, thank you. I know we're talking about this right now, but thank you for the explanation you actually put on for candidates and elected officials. I know there are people in the room that can't be seen right now, but thank you for doing that. It was honestly eye-opening to not think that this is some of this is theoretical. It's actually in practice. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Hadler.
Thanks. Rain sounds wonderful.
Smells good too.
You can almost smell here. Definitely thank you to everyone who participated in this. I think Trish's recommendations are common sense, reasonable. They don't clash with what's mandated by the state. I would absolutely prefer to see those in this plan. I will vote for this plan. We need it. But I think we could do better. And I think it's also, the general plan's a living document. Things can change and can be adapted. So I look forward to that in the future. Thanks.
Okay, Mary, did you have anything, or Commissioner McCandless, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah,
Did you have anything, Commissioner McCandless?
I just think that the planning and zoning department or commission went over this back and forth, and I'm happy to accept their recommendation and pass it tonight.
All right, thank you. I'll make a few comments and then call for a vote if you don't have anything, Mary.
Right now, I don't.
Okay, I'm glad to see that, Trish, that you see that the Colorado River using that water for irrigation is a good idea, because I really think that if we want to get serious about protecting our aquifer in this valley, that's going to come at a price. any secondary water is gonna come at a price. Whether we pump it from the Colorado River or we utilize flood mitigation efforts to protect, not only our homeowners in the valley, but then to utilize that water for future irrigation. There's a lot of different things that we can be doing, and there's a lot of counties in the state of Utah that are already making those efforts. They're planning for the future because Utah is a very arid, dry, deserty state, and we have to look to the future. And part of the future is the Colorado River and our water rights there. And any secondary water comes at a cost, whether it's there. And to get us on secondary water, I wish that I had it at my house. I wish I had irrigation water. So I do see the value in moving towards some secondary water for the entire valley and the conservation that would do on our aquifer. I do know that we constantly have a lot of people who voice their opinion from Castle Valley on protecting this aquifer, when I wonder if their efforts wouldn't be better utilized protecting the Castle Valley aquifer. And until Castle Valley starts looking towards a sewage treatment, they're not protecting their own aquifer. There has to be sewage treatment at some point when the entire or the majority of Castle Valley aquifer is overlaid with a gravel bar. It's just natural that those septic systems are leaching into their own aquifer. And I think there's plenty of room in that aquifer to be protecting it as well. But with that, again, I think that I appreciate your work, Andrew. I appreciate the work of the planning department. And with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of this motion? Those opposed? And Melody, I didn't see your hand. Did you put it? Okay, thank you. All right, so that passes 6 in favor with 1 opposed, Commissioner Hadeen. And with that, we can move on to, I believe, the Burr Oaks subdivision. And the rain.
Ready?
Yes, sir.